A lot of people, when they come to us, they want one-stop shopping, and I completely get it. I step back and I'm looking at quality of life, because sometimes one-stop shopping doesn't equal a quality of life now, and people's needs do change over time. Yeah. Somebody in assisted living who the family thinks is going to flow to memory care if needed, when it's needed, that client may be better suited to a board and care.
Welcome to Absolute Trust Talk with your host, Kirsten Howe. Absolute Trust Talk brings you tips, tools, advice, and interviews to help you build a reliable knowledge base on estate planning, business, and finance to start preparing for your future today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Absolute Trust Talk, our Facebook Live version of our podcast here at Absolute Trust Council. And I am Kirsten Howe, the host of Absolute Trust Talk. Very glad you're here today, and I'm very excited about this episode. I think this episode is going to be very informative, very helpful to a lot of my clients. I know that for a fact, because my guest, Juliane Bigelow of CareQuest, is going to be talking about with me today is navigating the world of senior living experiences. I get this a lot when we're meeting with new clients, new prospective clients. Oftentimes it's the adult children who are now finding themselves having to help or even take responsibility for their elderly parents. And it's very confusing. Assisted living, memory care, boarding care, continuing care, they just don't know what those things mean. They don't know how to make good choices. They don't know what even are the questions to ask. And it's stressful to be in that situation where you just don't know what you're doing. So today we're going to discuss all of those different choices, the factors that go into making good decisions with placement expert Juliane Bigelow of CareQuest. And I'm going to introduce her formally in just a minute. But if you've watched this before live, you know I have a couple of housekeeping things I have to get out of the way. We do answer audience questions in the live version. So if you are watching us live today, you can go ahead and type a question into the comment section on Facebook. And after Juliane and I finish talking, I will read the questions and she will answer them. So if you're not watching live, I can't help you with the questions, but you can still listen to the questions and the answers. All right, so housekeeping out of the way. My guest, Juliane Bigelow, founded CareQuest in 1997. She had previously been a physical therapist treating patients in hospitals and skilled nursing facilities. CareQuest is one of the first placement agencies in the Bay Area, and their mission is to educate clients and their families about the landscape of their assisted care options as they relate to a variety of things, the client's cognitive status, their care requirements, the safety concerns, and their mobility. Juliane has spent decades doing this, advocating for elders and their families, and she has a vast network of experienced, well-respected colleagues and professionals in the field of aging, and that comes into play a lot too. You know, knowing someone who knows someone is a big part of this journey. The CareQuest team supports both Contra Costa and Alameda counties, so they have offices in Walnut Creek and in Oakland. She does have a team. She can't do all of it alone, although she probably could, but she doesn't. As Helen Lindberg, who heads up CareQuest in Alameda County, and Megan Molo, who is their clinical coordinator for their Contra Costa office. All right, Juliane, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you're here. I can't thank you enough. I'm so excited that we're going to share what you know out here today.
Thank you for having me, Kirsten. I'm grateful to be here to share information with other people. I've seen other podcasts, and I do find them very informative and helpful. So thank you for having me as a guest.
That's great. You're very welcome. Well, let's just get started. So when clients are looking at services and care for elderly family members, let's just start with kind of the basics. What is the difference between assisted living and board and care? An assisted living facility and board and care. What are we talking about there?
So when you're looking at assisted living or memory care or a board and care, all these are licensed as residential care facilities for the elderly. So we call them RCFEs. They're licensed by the Department of Social Services, and they're licensed as non-medical entities. So they don't provide medical care, they provide non-medical care. Now, the two big differences in the communities are the assisted livings and the smaller care homes that are residential that we call board and care. The assisted livings are licensed for anywhere between 60 and 200 people, so they're larger communities. You have an apartment with a full kitchen, usually it's a kitchenette. Some have full kitchens, but usually it's an apartment with a kitchenette. You have a full private bathroom, and care comes to you according to plan. So when you're in assisted living, there's plenty of people that live independently in assisted living. They don't have a care plan, but they have the basic amenities, which are the 3 meals a day, transportation, housekeeping, activities. So they get all these amenities without care. If someone needs care in assisted living, then they're on a care plan, and caregivers will come to them according to their care needs.
And the care, just again to reiterate, the care is, personal care. It's what we would call custodial care, personal care, not medical care.
Correct. So it's anytime a caregiver would come to your apartment to help you with something like bathing, dressing, grooming, hygiene, going to the bathroom, managing incontinence, managing your medications, escort to meals. So that's the care. Yeah.
Okay. And so these, what I call an assisted living facility, they're the bigger ones. As
Correct.
You said, they're licensed for 60 to lots.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And so the apartments lead to internal hallways, which lead to common areas. So they have activity rooms and dining rooms and a movie theater in many cases. Some have pools. So yes, it's all the care and all the activities are on site, as opposed to Rossmore, where if you want to go to the clubhouse, you got to get in your car and you got to drive over there. And that clubhouse is right there. So it makes it very convenient and nice.
You just get in the elevator and go.
Exactly. And they have a lot of food choice. So, they have menus, and it's social dining with, a special or two of the day, the standard fare. So there's a variety of food that people can choose from. They do housekeeping, they do laundry, they have 24-hour staffing, and they provide transportation. So that's kind of assisted living in a nutshell.
Okay.
If we're going to switch over to the board and care side of things, it's a license the same as assisted living, but it's a residential home. And this residential home generally has 6 residents that live there and 2 caregivers that provide the care. It's a more intimate setting. You more often would have a bedroom in a home versus an apartment. We can find private rooms with private baths, but they're harder to come by. Generally, the baths are more centrally located, and they're remodeled to accommodate people with more limited mobility. So you might have a shower chair that rolls right into a shower to make bathing easier. The care is definitely closer at hand. There's more oversight between the resident and the staff. They have less activity, so someone who has a big social need might be better suited in assisted living. There's the caregivers that provide care in the board and cares do the housekeeping and the laundry and the care for the residents. So there's not a lot of extra bandwidth to have a big activities program. Yeah. Some board and care owners will bring in outside activities. It's been a little more difficult this past year with the pandemic. But as things improve, then hopefully those outside activities people will start coming back into care homes to provide a little bit more stimulation for the residents. They also do the housekeeping and the laundry. The meals are a little bit more limited because it's more family style around a table, and it's not like a big dining menu like you might get in assisted living. And they do have 24-hour staffing in the board and care, but in many of the care homes, the staff sleeps at night, as do the residents. So if somebody has a nighttime need or needs a lot of help at night, that model might not work well for them. Although there are care homes that are now hiring a dedicated night shift. So if somebody does need help at night and a board and care is the right fit for them, then we would just seek a home that had that night shift.
Okay. So there are a lot of variables there.
Lots and lots of variables, yes.
Yeah. And the board and cares, from the outside, they just look like a house in your neighborhood.
Correct. The telltale sign in many board and care homes is the ramped entry.
The ramp, yeah.
But they have to be ramped somewhere, and some of the care homes are ramped around behind the house. So you might see a step or two to get into the house and wonder, well, how would somebody get in there if they were in a wheelchair? But, through the gate around the back of the house, they're going to have a ramped entry back that way.
There's another entrance, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So that is very helpful. Just that terminology in and of itself is something that I find clients oftentimes don't understand. They don't appreciate. They've never heard that before. Okay. So then board and care, assisted living, how does memory care, dementia care, where does that fit in?
There's lots of different types of dementia, but when somebody is diagnosed with dementia, sometimes they're okay in a smaller assisted living. They don't need a memory care unit. If somebody is going into other people's apartments or exit seeking, then that person might need the memory care area of the assisted living. And in the memory care area of the assisted living, the activities and the socialization are more geared towards people with cognitive impairment. And they also have a delayed egress. So if somebody is an exit seeker and they push on a door, an alarm will sound, and it gives the staff time to come and redirect the person and just get them back engaged in something else or distract or redirect them. A board and care can manage somebody with dementia as well, but if somebody is exit seeking, the board and cares don't have the delayed egress like the memory cares do. So an alarm will sound when the door is open, but someone can exit easier. And if that person is not easily redirectable, it can be a problem because then they're outside the house and the caregivers, might have trouble getting them back into the house. So for people who are exit seekers or are up a lot at night or maybe have some behaviors or maybe they just need a lot of stimulation, a memory care could be better for them. Now, memory cares are either freestanding. We have some communities that are small that are memory care only.
Oh, okay.
But many memory cares are embedded within assisted livings. So people can be in assisted living, and then if it necessitates them to switch over to the memory care side of the building, it's pretty easy transition over.
They don't have to move to a new facility. Right.
But, as far as board and care goes, they can manage dementia for sure. It's just there's certain aspects of dementia that don't fit as well into the board and care setting as memory care.
Right. So when you're helping a family, you really have to understand a lot about what they need. Just saying the word dementia doesn't tell you everything you need to know to help them find a good location.
Right.
And you have to really drill down. Yeah.
Right. And as part of our assessment process, we're vetting all this out. We're asking all these questions. We're really drilling down to find out, is this person a good candidate for a board and care? Would they be better suited to a memory care? And then there's a lot of education with families sort of as to why. And sometimes they can go either way, and we look at both settings and see what resonates with the family. And certainly there's plenty of people with dementia where a lot of activity and hubbub can be overstimulating for them. And so that person might be much better off in a smaller, more sedate setting.
Right. So, yeah, that's a lot of nuance that you have to kind of wrap your mind around in order to help the family.
Yeah.
And I guess you probably have to take into account, well, maybe board and care could work now, but for how long, and what's the better thing, to just go to one facility and not move mom?
Right.
Or, all of that. It's all...
Yeah.
So many things.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they come to us, they want one-stop shopping, and I completely get it. I step back and I'm looking at quality of life, because sometimes one-stop shopping doesn't equal a quality of life now, and people's needs do change over time.
Yeah.
Somebody in assisted living who the family thinks is going to flow to memory care if needed, when it's needed, that client may be better suited to a board and care. So, the hard thing is that needs do change over time, but I'm always chasing quality of life.
Well, that's what we want for our...
That's right. That's what I want.
Yeah. We want them to be happy and safe.
Right. That's right.
Quality of life and safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay. Now, how do you help families navigate these options? How do you get started? What is your process?
So when someone calls us, we will typically do an assessment in person. The pandemic has changed that. We've had to do a lot more by phone, but now that people are getting vaccinated and the CDC is coming up with new guidelines, we're hoping that we can start those in-person assessments again. Because for me, just getting my eyes on somebody and talking to them and hearing about what their wishes are and to make them feel a part of the process is huge. because nobody wants to be placed. People want to participate in the decisions as much as they can in their life. And so I like to meet with people and I like to engage them and talk to them and just get a sense of who they are, because it really helps me then sort of drill down on the communities that I think would be good for them. We also rely heavily on the families who know their parents well, or the skilled nursing or hospital system. We can get information from them on how they're functioning and, what their safety awareness is like and what their mobility is like, so we can help the family sort of drill down on options that would be appropriate. But when someone calls us, we have a form that we go through with them where we look at their current medical history. We look at their past medical history. We look at their height, their weight, their age, their diet, their vision, their hearing, their safety, their mobility. We look at their, do they have swallow issues? Do they need to be fed? Or do they have dietary issues? We're seeing more vegans and vegetarians. So we want to make sure that, the community can support that diet, or puree diet in some cases as well. Then we look at how the person can articulate their needs. Can they use a call system? Can they call for help? Can they articulate that they're cold or thirsty or hungry? Or do those needs need to be anticipated by the staff? We look at their demeanor. Are they social? Are they private? Are they crabby? Are they funny? What is their demeanor like? Who do they enjoy connecting with? We look at where they lived before. Did they come from a home? Did they come from assisted living? Did they come, from living with their family? Because we sort of take that into perspective when we're thinking about, the next step. And we like to know what their social history is. What brings them happiness? Do they like dancing with the stars? Some people just sit around all day and that's what they do. And other people are like, it's Jeopardy, Dancing with the Stars. My mom loves her cat, So right. We like to get all that information too, in terms of likes and dislikes. And sometimes we get swimmers, my mom wants to do pool aerobics. And there are a few assisted livings that have pools, and they do.
They can make that happen, yeah.
Yeah, and some people, outdoor space is very important for them. And some assisted livings have a window, and others have like outdoor patio space.
Right.
So, finding out what's important to people, including the size of the apartment. The board and care is a little trickier because it's more like a bedroom in a home, but some are bigger, some have private bathrooms. And the assisted livings go from anywhere from a studio to, and a few assisted livings have a 2-bedroom apartment. So. But yeah. I can say that most people want space, but more space is more expensive. And the idea of assisted living is that you're not holed up in your apartment all day. The idea is that the apartment is where you rest, but there's a whole host of activities and engagement outside of the apartment. So space isn't as important as people think it is. Once you move in, you realize that.
Yeah. It's more like when you're on vacation, you have a hotel room. You want it to be nice. You want it to be comfortable, but you're spending more time out of the hotel room.
Yeah, right.
At least most of us when we go on vacation. Yeah. Now, are some people who need assisted living have more complicated medical situations? I'm thinking of, for example, like diabetes. And some facilities maybe can take that and some can't?
Correct. Even though the assisted livings are all licensed the same, they don't all take on the same level of care. So some assisted livings will take on really heavy care. Some assisted livings are sort of more of a light model of care. Some have the nursing support to manage the diabetes. Now, if somebody can inject themselves, that's fine. And let me just back up a little bit with diabetes. For mild diabetes, people are usually on oral medications.
Right.
It gets a little harder to manage with the blood sugar. Then sometimes the doctors will put them on insulin. Right. Now, the insulin can be either a set dose or a sliding scale. And, the doctor has a regime for how often he wants the person to check their blood glucose, and that might trigger an insulin injection. So it's very complicated when you're looking at more advanced diabetic management. Right. Now, in the industry of assisted living and board and care, if somebody can inject themselves, that's fine. But if they can't inject themselves, licensing says that the care staff can't do that. They consider that to be invasive. So some assisted livings have the nursing support, and you've got to have, because some diabetics are checking before breakfast, before lunch, before dinner, and before bed. So you need nursing support from, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Right.
So some assisted livings have hired that level of nursing support and can take on injection management, and some cannot.
And some won't. Okay.
And the same thing with, there's other things too, like Hoyer lifts is a mechanical lift to help somebody get out of bed into a chair. Some assisted livings will take on Hoyer lifts and some prefer not to. Scooters or electric wheelchairs, some allow them, some don't. Dementia, some assisted livings are more friendly to the diagnosis of dementia in the assisted living versus just kind of scooting over to the memory care side of things. So, sometimes families come to me and say, mom does have dementia diagnosed, but she's still really high functioning. She's not exit seeking. There's no behaviors, and we really don't want her in memory care right now. So we would screen according to that. And then I mentioned the size of the apartment, from studio to a 2-bedroom. Cost, is a little bit all over the board, although there are communities that are more affordable, and there definitely are communities that are more expensive. And then some people want outdoor space, possibly a pool. There's a lot of factors that go into that.
Okay. And I guess that what we just have been talking about is it's important for you to get to know the person who needs help with placement. And it's also important on the other side to know the various facilities and what they can do, what they have to offer, what it's like. You have to match both of those to do the work that you do. I know there are probably hundreds of different facilities within Contra Costa alone for you to choose from. How do you keep abreast of that? How do you stay current? And you must do a lot of visiting, is my guess.
Yeah.
It's
it's visiting, but it's also client feedback. So when somebody moves into a community, we're following up with that family in 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 months. It just depends on, or the whole time. One of the things we're doing is tracking quality of the people that are living in communities that we have suggested, because it's important to us that they feel that they're settling in, they feel cared for, their needs are being met, there aren't any issues or problems. So for us, we track quality through follow-up. And that is huge, in terms of... That's
a really great, important resource. Yeah.
Right. If somebody uses a local placement person and they've been in business at least 5 years, think about my 25 years, they start to really get a handle on the industry. And if you're tracking quality and following up with your clients, and who does a good job, and who specializes in what, it makes it easier to take this overwhelming situation and quickly narrow it down for the family.
Right. Okay. I'm going to turn to our questions now and see if we've got any questions. Yes, we do have a few. Okay. First question, how do you get someone to move out of their home and into a better environment when they don't want to move?
Right. So what I've learned over 25 years is that you cannot take somebody kicking and screaming and just say, here's your assisted living. It doesn't work. On some level, you have to get a buy-in. And that buy-in could be, sometimes it's very difficult. And sometimes it's a crisis or multiple crises that ultimately lead to moving to a safe place, or hiring that in-home care that they need that they've been resisting. So sometimes it's just a series of crises. Sometimes families choose to hire a geriatric care manager to help pave the way to moving to an assisted living. And we collaborate with geriatric care managers all the time. Have you had one on your podcast?
We have, yeah. And we have another geriatric care coming up in a few weeks.
Good, because they're great. And so when there's a very complex family dynamic, or when somebody is very, very resistant and the family's exasperated and they don't know what to do, especially with frontal lobe dementia, that affects executive judgment and reasoning. So the family's seeing all kinds of problems, but the person is like, hey, I'm fine. A care manager coming in, sort of that neutral third party, can really help pave the way and collaborate with myself and the family on making a change happen.
Yeah, just laying it out logically isn't going to do it with some people.
With some people.
It's not going to work. Yeah. Okay. Next question. How can people find someone who does what you and CareQuest do in another county or state? Juliane, you work in Alameda and Contra Costa.
Correct.
But what if we need somebody in Nevada?
Right. If for California, I'm pretty well connected with other local agencies throughout the state. Or if I don't it can't cover a region, I'll reach out to a colleague to see if they know of a local person in the region where the person's looking. So with California, we can usually find a local. And the thing is you want to work local. If the person you're talking to is in Arizona and you're looking in Contra Costa County, I can guarantee you they're really not going to know the local landscape. So you really want to work with somebody who has a physical presence, who goes out to the communities, who assesses clients, because that's the kind of person that's going to be worth their weight in gold and really give you the information you need instead of a huge list of communities that aren't even vetted properly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think you definitely demonstrated that very clearly with this conversation, that there's so much to know about the various facilities. You really have to do that boots on the ground kind of reconnoitering.
Right.
That you do. Okay, so this question is generally, what are the costs of the options that we've been talking about? We've been talking about board and care, assisted living facilities, memory care. How do they compare, and how do they compare to in-home care?
Right. It's a little bit all over the board, so it's hard to just throw out generalizations, but I'm going to do it anyway, just to give people a general sense of the cost. Non-medical in-home care, to have a caregiver come into your home, is in the range of $30+ an hour. So that's $21,000 a month if you need 24-hour care. Now, some people just start off with a little care, and it's a great way to introduce care to somebody who might be a little bit more resistant. And a segue ultimately to moving to a more supportive setting is to just introduce. And some people are like, I don't want anybody in my home. They find it very invasive and they don't like it. So everybody's different as far as that goes. But so home care, in home care, $30+ an hour. Let's just call it $21,000 a month if you need a 24-hour caregiver. Right. Now keep in mind that the board and care and the assisted living all have 24-hour care available. And your board and care private rooms run in the range of $5,000 to $8,000 a month.
Okay.
With all the care somebody needs. That includes the meals and the laundry and the housekeeping and like all those amenities and personal care. So let's just say 5 to 8 for a board and care.
Yeah.
Assisted living is a little trickier because you're renting an apartment. And then you have your care fees on top of that. So let's just start with the apartment. Studios run in the range of $3,000 to $5,000 a month. There could be a little bit of more or less with that range, but let's just say a studio is 3 to 5, and let's say a 1-bedroom is 5 to 7, and a 2-bedroom could be 7 to 8. Okay, $1,000 a month. And if you don't need any care, you don't pay care fees in assisted living. Now, if you do need help and you need extensive help, that could run $3,000 a month. So you could have a $4,000 studio and $3,000 of help, and then making it $7,000. You can also have a $4,000 studio and only just need $500 to $1,000 of help because maybe you need meds and maybe you need standby with bathing and escort to meals, and it just doesn't add up to that much.
Yeah.
It's a little trickier with the care fees in assisted living because it's an unknown. It makes it hard for me. This is part of my assessment too, is I'm trying to drill down on how much help somebody needs. So I'm trying to get an idea of what is that care fee going to look like in assisted living. Would it be more cost effective to be in a board and care? But then you got to look at the quality of life in the person as well, when you're trying to figure out what's best.
Yeah, it's a matrix of different things that have to together. Okay, and then memory care, the most expensive of those.
So memory care runs from about, there's also a shared room and a private room in memory care.
Right.
A lot of people think they want a private room, but studies have shown that for people with more advanced dementia, there's comfort with the presence of another person in the room. I try to educate families, like, don't keep in mind that you just want a private room because a shared room may be beneficial for your family member. But the shared rooms are going to run $45 to $65 maybe. And the private rooms in memory care are going to run $65,000 to $10,000 a month. Okay. It just depends on the community, and but those are average ranges for the cost.
Yeah. Well, nobody's going to hold you to it, but it's good to kind of,
especially in 10 years, everything's going to be different in 10 years. It's probably going to be way more.
Right. If you're watching this video in 2025, just forget all that.
Exactly. I actually want to talk just because I don't know if it's going to be a question, but really quickly, I wanted to touch on who pays for this.
Okay.
Because a lot of people think that Medicare pays for assisted living, but they don't. Medicare pays for acute hospitalization and short-term rehab, along with other things, but they don't pay for long-term care. So who pays for it? Well, the answer is we do. The assets that we've saved, our home that we hopefully own. Now, the other income streams for people would be long-term care insurance if they have it.
Yep.
And then the Veterans Administration, through a program called Aid in Attendance, can offer money as well if somebody qualifies. So those are the income streams.
Okay. And since we're talking about costs, as one final thing, I'm going to say, what do you charge to do your CareQuest?
So the way the model of my business works is that we're a free service to the family. So we get paid through the marketing and advertising budget of the assisted living or the board and care. Now, as a consumer, you're not going to pay any more by going through CareQuest. There's no hidden cost. There's no downside to using us. The only downside would be is if somebody was in business for a short period of time and really didn't have a handle on the industry and hadn't really contracted out with all the communities, then there can be a bias. But with our 25 years of experience, we work with everybody and there's no inherent bias in terms of where we're going to send you. It's really all about what's best for you. We can choose from anything out there in our counties.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the point being that it doesn't cost anything to work with you, and people can take advantage of all the knowledge that you have and all the resources that you have. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. That's very helpful. Just that one little nugget right there. Very helpful. Okay. I think I'm just going to check. I think that's it on the questions. Yep. So, Juliane, thank you so much for being here. This has really been informative. I know that people are going to benefit from listening to this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. I hope you'll come back someday.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye now. All right. I hope you got as much out of that as I did. I really, really enjoyed that episode. I'm glad you were able to join me. We here at Absolute Trust Council are here, not 24/7, but we are here Monday through Friday to help you with any estate planning or related matters. We're happy to work with you, happy to help point you in the right direction, even if it's something that we don't do ourselves. So I look forward to talking to you, helping you with your estate planning needs. And also, I look forward to connecting with you next time. Thanks for joining me. Thank you so much for listening today. I really appreciate you being here. I am so grateful that you're in my audience, and I hope you also learned something and enjoyed the show. If you like our podcast, be sure to go to iTunes and subscribe. You just type the words Absolute Trust Talk in the search bar on your podcast button on your phone, and our podcast will come up and you'll be able to subscribe there. That subscription helps us with our visibility online, our SEO, and all those kinds of things that I never understand, but I'm told that it's important. So in addition to searching for us on iTunes on your phone, you can also just go to our website and you'll find our podcast there. You'll also find all of our previous episodes. So you go to absolutetrustcouncil.com, click on the podcast tab on our homepage, and you'll see all the topic for all of our previous guests, and you just click on the one you want to listen to. Also, make sure to catch our next episode, which will be out in a month or so after this one, and I know you'll get a lot out of that one too. So I look forward to connecting with you next time.
Thank you for listening to Absolute Trust Talk. If you loved this episode, head on over to iTunes to subscribe and leave us a review. Don't forget to visit our website, absolutetrustcouncil.com, where you can find a host of guidebooks and other tools to help you through the estate planning and estate administration process. If you need help securing your own legacy, then put your absolute trust in us. Give us a call at 925-943-2740 or email us at info@absolutetrustcouncil.com to set up your free consultation today. This podcast is not meant to take the place of legal advice from an attorney,
and does not create an attorney-client relationship. If you do have a legal question or issue, please consult with an attorney.